So I'd like to first welcome you to our second Recreating Willingboro, Pursuing Better News. Our first one was Recreating Willingboro Part 1, and we had some great discussion regarding what would make Willingboro a better place. And this time we are going to talk about pursuing better news. How do we get news in Willingboro? How can we be more effective, and where do we get this news from? What's missing, etc. So I'd like to begin first by introducing Mr. Chris Norris, WHYY, let me spotlight you here. WHYY community contributor and engagement editor. Chris, you are on.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for attending Recreating Willingboro, Pursuing Better News, a community conversation and listening session. I bring you greetings and well wishes on behalf of Sandra Clark, WHYY's VP of News and Civic Dialogue, as well as the entire WHYY family. I'd like to also thank Joyce Soto, WHYY's Community Voices and Engagement Fellow, and WHYY's first ever community curator, Dr. Amy Dean, for their hard work organizing this event. Again, my name is Chris Norris. I am the Community Contributors and Engagement Editor at WHYY. I'm also the host of Neighbors in the Crossfire, an original WHYY mini-series focused on the gun violence crisis in Philadelphia and what communities are doing to solve the problem. Episode 2 airs tonight, actually, at 7:30 on WHYY TV 12, or you can view and share it later at whyy.org/video. At WHYY, we don't just tell stories, we build informed and engaged communities. And tonight's effort to learn about the information needs of Willingboro residents is aligned with that mission. Tonight, I am here to listen and to help solve the problem. So I encourage your thoughtfulness, your engagement, questions, and commentary. With that, I turn it back to Dr. Amy Dean to introduce the panel and start the conversation. Back to you, Doc.
So we're going to begin. Thank you, Chris. We're going to begin with a short video clip, and we're introducing BoroTV. Can everyone see the screen?
Yes.
Everyone has a voice. BoroTV gives our community the opportunity to be heard. I'm Terry McCullum. I'm the owner and executive producer of BoroTV. BoroTV shares information by live streaming events, council and board meetings, and creating content in order to not only make people aware of what is happening in and around our community, but to encourage them to get involved. I believe that everyone has a gift and an ability to do something that will enhance their community and better their lives. BroTV is my way of using my gifts and my abilities to give back.
So that is Mr. Terry McCullum, Willingboro resident who loves to engage with and assist his community. Born and raised in New Jersey, he's the husband and father of 4 who enjoys spending most of his time with his family. Terry's worked in multiple areas of media over the years, including hosting gospel radio and TV shows as a social media personality, and more recently, the producer of BoroTV. He believes in the importance of using one's gifts and abilities to help strengthen and empower others. Welcome, Terry. I'm going to
Hello.
I'm going to do a brief introduction and then we'll jump in, all right?
Okay.
Great. Next, we have Miss Adrian Baldock. And Adrian Baldock is a media specialist from Montclair State University with a Bachelor of Arts in Television and Digital Media. She manages an Instagram talk show called What's Up Wednesdays every Wednesday at 9 p.m. And the end goal is to create more opportunities for youth in media. She is a resident of Willingboro, New Jersey. Welcome, Miss Adrian.
Hello, everybody.
Returning to Recreating Willingboro, once again, we have Miss Judy Evans, licensed clinical social worker, state of New Jersey. During her over 50-year career, she's worked with the juvenile justice system. In short, she is a Willingboro resident that does amazing things. Welcome, Miss Judy.
Hi, how is everybody?
And we have Mr. Will Weston. Will is a graduate. Oop, it went too far. Let me go back. Will is a graduate of the John F. Kennedy Center. So he's been in Willingboro all his life. Shout out to JFK. He currently serves as the vice president of the Willingboro and Vicinity NAACP and is a contributor to the BoroTV media platform. His personal mission is to provide and share local information with as many people as can be reached. He just likes to get the information out. He's active in this community and loves Willingboro. Welcome, Will.
Hey, what's going on?
Returning again, we have Miss Natalie Acuna, and I put that she's 14, she's 13. 8th grade and attends Memorial Middle School. In her free time, she likes to read, write, and go on bike rides. We're glad to have you, Natalie.
Thank you for having me.
Great. And last but certainly not least, we have Miss Marilyn. Oh, I'm a great screen person. There we go. We have Miss Marilyn Bell, born and raised in Queens, New York. Marilyn Bell is a publisher, fashion and hair, beauty industry connoisseur who continues to set trends. She started as a creative director for a popular media outlet. She consisted of coordinating photo shoots. She has worked with many magazines. She has worked and helped to seal the deal with Black Elegance magazine. She has and is the producer of EBE magazine, and she currently serves as the assistant public information officer for the Willingboro Township, and so she oversees the communications department. Welcome, Miss Marilyn Bell.
Hello, everyone.
All right, are you guys ready to start this conversation?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Chris, let's go.
Would you like to go first, Doctor?
Absolutely, let's do it. So the question that I would like to pose is, where do you get your news? How do you get news about Willingboro? Where do you get that? Who would like to take that?
Well, basically, the communications department gets a lot of their news from the municipalities and also different partners and relationships that we have, individuals who actually come into our department wanting to put out information regarding events or well, I'm sorry, you should say that. Let me just retract that. Actually, individuals who come to our department and want to inform us about what's going on in the community and also events as well.
Okay, so the people come to you to put the news out. So that's where you get your news. They come to you.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, and being a contributor to BoroTV, I get my news actually by attending council meetings or at least making sure that I'm in the Zoom meeting, the WHYY, the school board meetings, but that's before we got on lockdown or had this COVID situation. I would try to be at any event, any Willingboro event, but just here, and that's actually how I got a lot of the news, also from social media, if anything's happening, and also from coming in contact with the township. You tend to learn things about what's happening, and and where I was at was trying to facilitate letting other people know about what's happening and the many different events that are going on.
Thank you. Miss Judy, where do you get your news?
Well, to tell you the truth, I get my news from a family member who's an employee of the township. And other than that, since I left the township, which was a long time ago, like 95, unless I actively pursue it, like attending meetings and that kind of stuff, I wouldn't have any contact. And I'm afraid I'm too much like a lot of the residents here. We're not going to go out and pursue it. We're too busy living lives and working. We got family stuff, and we don't stop and think, oh, I've got to drop it and go. And I hate to say that, but I think it's true. It's almost like you've got to put things in front of people, so as it goes by, they go, oh yeah, okay, maybe I'll follow through on it. But I don't think there are too many people that are not willing to be very active to go out and seek what's going on, unless they have a problem. Then they will show up. When we had the flood in Willingboro 2 years ago, at least in my area, because we were flooded out, everybody kind of pulled together. You saw a lot of people talking to each other on the street. We went to council meetings. We were in contact when FEMA showed up and everything. But other than that, and I don't think it is. That's why I think there's a lot of residents that are unaware of what's really going on in town.
Ms. Judy, though, a quick follow-up. When you say that a lot of people in town don't pursue news, is it because they don't see the news as a necessary part of their civic life, or because the township may be so tight-knit that they can forego pursuing traditional news outlets and just kind of hear by hearsay?
Unless I think it personally impacts their life, it's like, okay, you know, I know there's things going on, but I can't make the effort to get to a meeting.
I see. So it's about relevancy. If it's not relevant,
right.
I got it. Thank you.
Right. Like when we had the flood, it was very relevant to, you know, the people here that were influenced by the flood. And you saw a lot of activity then. And then once all that, you know, was resolved, it died down.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you. Adrian, you speak for some of the 90s babies. What do you think? Where do you get your news concerning Willingboro?
So right now with the younger generations, everyone is on social media. And because everyone is inside the house now, applications are the biggest thing. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. People even eat on YouTube now. Like it's to a point where, you know, younger generations just like to see the inside life of someone else. So for the most part, now that everyone is at home, you see a lot of creatives or a lot of people getting creative as far as like nourishing skills and talents that they've always had that they didn't have time before the pandemic to actually nourish and get into. So what I see now are a lot of small business owners, you know, putting out brands, starting photography, trying new hobbies, and just getting to know themselves. So for the news itself, I don't really think that our generation is going to watch TV to get their news. Most of the time it's someone sharing a repost on Facebook, or someone is calling someone, or it's word of mouth or very interpersonal. So for my generation, I would like to create more organizations or see more young people getting into the news, like going out and pursuing.
Okay. We're going to come back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, like, you know, reporters and stuff, they used to go out and look for news, but I don't think our generation is going to look and say, well, hey, what's going on with you guys? Like, no.
Okay. Natalie, do you want to say anything?
Yeah. Well, where I get my news from, I usually get it like from social media and stuff like that. Or like if I hear some around. And I actually wanted to become a journalist when I grew up. Right now I'm still like not sure yet, but yeah, that's pretty much it. I feel like there should be like ways where like people should get more news, because I really don't hear that much news here.
Okay.
So yeah.
Does this lack of interest in Willingboro news, does it seem like, you know, we don't have anything going on? Because for those of us that live in Willingboro, you know, we're in bubbles or silos, but we're doing stuff, but people don't know about it. You know, so is it that Willingboro is not interesting? What do you think it is?
Well, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, you got it, Pat.
I think that it has a lot to do with many people's definition of news. Some people probably feel as though it's not news unless somebody died or somebody's been exposed or something astronomical has taken place and everybody needs to know about it. On the flip side of that, I happen to look more for the things that aren't being put out in mainstream media. You know, there are a lot of things that are going on around us that a lot of people may not consider to be newsworthy, but to that person who's involved, it is newsworthy because they want to get the information about what they're doing out to the public. So I think that has a great deal to do with why people aren't necessarily seeking after news.
If I can, Doc, I would to follow up with Mr. McCullum, because I don't know if I got your answer. And I have another question, but I don't know if I got the answer from where you get your news. So what's your media diet? What does your media diet consist of?
I'm 100% social media. I mean, I get a lot of social media intake every day. And as a matter of fact, I get the majority of my news from social media. I know growing up, I was an 80s baby. And growing up, there was a time when families would get together for the 6 o'clock news, the 10 o'clock news. You know, there used to be a thing that would come on. It's 10 p.m. Do you know where your children are? Everyone would sit and watch the news, and that's how they would get their information. But nowadays, When you wake up in the morning and once you do your morning routine and you get on social media, anything that you need to know will be right there in your news feed. In some cases, my kids come to me and tell me news that I haven't seen because they get it from their social media.
Mm. Adrian and Natalie, get ready because I'm coming to you in a second. But to Mr. McCullum and to Mr. Weston, a quick follow-up. Since you guys are so active with Willingboro TV, you're seeing things that aren't necessarily making the media. In your estimation, what are some of the stories, both news stories and lifestyle stories about Willingboro that the mainstream media, like WHYY or Burlington County Times or 6ABC, what are we missing? What are the stories that we're missing?
Well, there are some stories that are missing, but also there are some key pieces to stories that are being covered that we're missing as well. I'll give you an example. Just a day ago, I believe, there was a house that caught fire and it burned. And there was a gentleman, I believe a 66-year-old man who actually lost his life in that fire. The information came across as far as the house catching on fire and a loss of life. But then there's no follow-up as far as how do we support this family that just lost a loved one? How do we support this family that may possibly not have a place to go at this point? So it seems like, you know, the news is being put out there, but then there's nothing to tag along with it where the community as a village can get together and use this information in a way to actually assist where assistance is needed.
So in other words, it's not solutions journalism.
Right, absolutely.
Got it. Mr. Weston, what would you say? What are the stories that are being missed by the mainstream media?
Well, similar to what Mr. McCullough was saying, there's just the information such as that fire. There's just the information. There's not the human element of the story. And also, I'm looking at it more from an events thing. Like just I believe last week, there was a voter registration drive with the NAACP and Faith in Action. There's community cleanups that's resident-led. And these things, even in our community, it's not being known or being advertised, or, you know, I don't know what the obstacle is to other than, I don't know what that, because it is social media, but I think there's different silos even within social media but there's so many positive things. There's the Virtual Citizens Forum by the Willingboro Police Department. You know, there's a lot going on that's positive that's not being captured the right way or getting to all the community stakeholders.
I see, and then the media may be missing it, but do you feel like as Ms. Bell said, you know, people are informing her. Do you feel like the township is at least capturing enough of these stories and sharing it?
I think they are, but I think there is still a slight disconnect. Well, you know, we can improve because even now, from being on social media, I see people after events saying, "I wish I had known," you know, and things like that. Like after we put up the pictures or the video of the event, there's often people saying, "Oh, you know, I wish I had known about this, I would have came out," and that type of thing.
Right.
I see. Did anyone jump in before I go to Natalie and Adrian?
I was just going to say, I had forgotten, and Adrian reminded me with this pandemic, I did get a lot of news because I would go to the Kennedy Center for aerobics classes and yoga classes, and there would be signs up of things that were coming, and the community center could be even better, I think, in terms of the senior center is there, funneling through a lot of information, banners in front or whatever to attract people or something, and that was a direct contact, which I'd forgotten all about it with this pandemic, that's no longer there. And it was older people because it was during the day and we were there doing our thing, and we shared what was going on in churches and families and in the township, and that really did help.
I appreciate that because I remember visiting Willingboro and seeing the JFK Center and realizing that this is really the center of community life there. And I think there are a lot of opportunities to think about what happens there and how people congregate there as an incubator for information. To Natalie and Adrian first, are you seeing enough about Willingboro, about your home, your township, in your social media feeds among your friends? Or do you feel like you want more?
I feel like I would like more, but a lot of times the things that go on with my age group they take it outside of Willingboro too.
Okay.
I guess it's just not enough resources to hold certain events. For instance, I see a lot of creatives doing like open mic nights outside that might be held at like the waterfront in Burlington or maybe in Camden at the waterfront there. But like it's not in Willingboro anymore because like Miss Judy said, like the JFK is closed. People cannot have like events in JFK anymore. They can't go to the High and go to football games or even have events at the High. Or I went to West Tech. So it's like most of the resources that we used to have are on hold right now. So most of the things are really independent, not really group settings. Like virtually, it's hard to actually get stories in our community because we're not together anymore. We're all supposed to be virtual technically. So it's really difficult right now in this pandemic. Yeah.
And also in in Willingboro as well is it's just broken up into different segments. Like we have the Adrian's generation, you know, and then we have the baby boomers, you know. I think that a lot of the resources and the information, because we generate a lot of the events, a lot of what's happening in Willingboro because we get it from the municipality and because we are inside of the municipality. And when we put it on our social media pages, it's a wonderful thing that we do. I do see, you know, Terry McCullough from BoroTV or Will Weston, you know, actually sharing our information, which is wonderful. But I think there are key components that, like Ms. Judith said, Ms. Evans, indicated that, you know, with our seniors, you know, our seniors, a lot of them are not on social media. So a lot of them don't get that information. Prior to me coming on, working in the communications department, there was a publication that they had, Willingboro News, that would go out to every household, you know, and people would get information that way. Sometimes the information is, you know, past tense, but people know about it, and that comes to Will's point to say, well, I wish I would have known about this earlier, or if it was advertised a little bit better, I would have attended. I just think that we need to look at our population, and you have to really break it down to cater to each and everyone. Like right now, when I came on now, I started to create the newsletter, a monthly newsletter that we would send out to get that, you know, going so people can get involved and know what's happening. We also created a residential handbook to give people information on how to get information and find out what's going on in Willingboro Township. So I just think that we have to actually look at our population and break things down, because, you know, we have Facebook, we have a certain age group that's on Facebook, we have a certain age group that's on Instagram, TikTok, Pinterest, and so forth. I think once we actually get all of that, those numbers together, you know, the pie, we can actually, you know, split it up and know how to get the information out to everyone. I just think we need to get a little bit more tools to assist that and make that happen.
And I wonder, just a quick follow-up, Ms. Bell, is there any interest, or have you in prior times, has your department collaborated with the Adrian and Natalie generation when you think about how do we get information out and untraditional methods? Is your office open, or have you done that in the past?
Oh, absolutely. We've done that with actually Terry McCullough. You know, we work together. We're going to be working on some things in regards to policing, you know, policing engagement with the officers, getting that information out. I would love to work with Adrian. I'm looking at Adrian right now and says, I know Adrian, you know. Adrian used to be in my home. So I would love to actually, that's what it's all about, you know, networking and getting everyone together and, you know, to make, you know, the newsworthy better in Willingboro. Definitely so.
So Kimberly Stewart, sorry to cut you off, said that we need to bring back our local Willingboro channel. Many people don't utilize social media that often, and events should be broadcasted on the digital sign at JFK. And I know that some events are actually broadcasted, but apparently we need more, right? And then Muhammad said that, Mr. Muhammad said, I think the WhatsApp can also help with putting out news. We do have a large population of people from, different countries, and many of them are on WhatsApp. So these are like different ways and things that could be looked at to reach the audiences that Willingboro does not reach currently.
I think that would help too, but like also something that I have learned as well is that there are different demographics on every application. So some people use WhatsApp, some people use Facebook, younger people use Twitter, some people use Instagram, and then minus the application, a lot of people are seeking outside activities. So you'll see a lot more people walking in the park or going to the malls or just finding something to do outside. And that's also a good place to engage with people, because I know a lot of times, when you blow up people's phones with a lot of notifications like go here, it gets lost a lot of times because you're texting someone, you're on this app. It just really gets confusing too. So I think getting the interpersonal connection with our community would also build us to be stronger as well, because like Ms. Bell also communicated on, we are in sections, even to how our houses are. Like you have Twin Hills, you have Garfield East. These are tiny communities that all age groups are in. So for example, there are some guys that go down to country club. I live, right down the street, and I see them always, out and, interacting with each other. Those are also the ways that we should go back to, since we can't really, be in person or contact the way we should. But any little slight instance would help for, just getting out to the community, let people know you're real and not just a profile.
Right. Totally agree.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just want to mention that concerning the platforms, there's also, as Mr. Muhammad said, WhatsApp. But what I'm seeing is that there's people who are next door who aren't on Facebook. So they're having a conversation there, and oftentimes I'm getting it. And as we're talking about this, I'm getting information from next door and putting it in Facebook. Or if it's something I think that's relevant, I'm taking it from Facebook or whatever source and putting it next door. So there are a lot of different media channels that are out there, and there's different populations in them. And as we had talked about this prior to this conversation, though, but even within Facebook, there's silos within there where
many.
Yeah, so even that makes it a little more and I'm looking at it for people who want the news, but they need a low bar to get it. Like let's more, I'm trying to just make the bar lower, or I would like the bar to be lower for them to access news that will be relevant to them. Willingboro news that's relevant to them.
Good description, yes.
So the news that is getting out, is it accurate?
Well,
I
believe
that.
That's next meeting.
Put
it out there first.
Adrian, what are you saying? Go ahead.
Accuracy really depends nowadays on how many perspectives that can be brought out in that situation. Now, you can't just see one post that is like out and then be like, oh yeah, I believe it, because there's fake news, there's this, there's that. And a lot of times there's not just one video, there's multiple pictures, there's multiple people commenting, there's so many perspectives on the web. It's just like, you don't really know unless you really delve deep into it. Or
what about Willingboro news? The news that's getting outside of Willingboro, what we see on TV from time to time, what could be in the newspaper, is that accurate?
I feel like it is, for the most part, accurate. However, the narrative, it's the narrative that bugs me when it comes to Willingboro news being portrayed outside of Willingboro. Because for some reason, it seems like when people outside of Willingboro talk about Willingboro in a news form, it's to put a certain spin on it in order to make Willingboro look like we're just bad. Like Willingboro is just a bad place. And the same things that they're reporting on that's happening in Willingboro is happening in other towns around Willingboro, even in their towns where it's being reported. But for some reason, they put a certain spin on it to make us look bad.
Well, I just wanted to jump on that point for a second. And more specifically, I know people talk about the Bremen County Times, and that they disproportionately report negative stories about Willingboro, you know, violence, drugs, and those type of things, while there's a lot of positive things that are happening that don't get reported. To be fair, just recently though, they did an excellent piece on our mayor, which you know was very in depth, and I learned about her journey, which is amazing. But I think a lot of people feel that, especially the Burlington Town Times, you know, pushes as Terry said, a negative narrative about Willingboro, which you know paints a certain picture about us.
Okay. Ms. Bell, what would you say about that?
I agree with Will in regards to the Burlington County Times. Like they did a wonderful piece on our mayor. And I also agree, Terry, the journey was a fascinating one. But there are times when there are things that are mentioned about Willingboro that puts a bad taste in people's mouths about Willingboro.
Marilyn, Mrs. Bell, I'm sorry, because you just hit something. Could you tell me what the last story that you read from BCT that made you angry, or not BCT, but the last news story that you read or heard that made you angry?
Well, I actually wouldn't say that this particular story I'm going to tell you about that made me angry, but the information wasn't accurate. So we're going back on the accurate situation. When they were talking about the actually abandoned homes here in Willingboro and how there's squatters in all of the abandoned homes. Now, I don't agree that there's squatters in every abandoned home. How would you know that? Did you go inside these homes to find that out? You know, so things like that it's a bit disturbing, because then it makes your neighbor or the person who's living beside that abandoned home feel a certain way, and then all of a sudden they may feel that they want to move out of Willingboro. So those are the things that certain information isn't accurate. Okay. Because I don't think that there are squatters in every single abandoned home.
Okay.
Dr. Dean, I'd like to answer that question. I'd like to respond to that question because there is something that still presses on me today regarding a news article that I read that literally it struck a nerve. There was some time ago when there was an incident that had taken place in Willingboro where someone had gotten killed. And I remember reading an article in the Trentonian where they referred in the headline to Willingboro as Killingboro. And to this day, whenever I hear that word, I cringe. And it was to the point where I literally wrote the editor and I expressed my utter disdain for that article and how they portrayed Willingboro in it.
I remember that. I definitely remember that.
And I would also like to answer that question because, and I definitely remember that article, and that was something that did get Willingboro residents riled up. More recently, on September 3rd, there was an article titled "Willingboro Restaurants Face Uncertain Future." The lead picture in that was Representative Andy Kim and a religious leader in front of Golden Dawn. But Golden Dawn is in Edgewater. Like it's not a Willingboro restaurant. And the other side, they are mentioned in the article, but they're actually kind of doing okay. And it did mention one restaurant, the Pitcher Market, which is in the Willingboro Town Center. But there's, we have some other spots, Potasio Restaurant, Jilly's, just other places they could have went to that are in Willingboro that could have been spotlighted. And I feel like oftentimes the writers for Burlington County Times or, some other media sources, you could tell they're not connected with Willingboro. Like if you're going to have that type of article, I could tell you're just an outsider writing about the town. And it's not, you can tell it's not connected. It's not, it's not in sync.
Got it. Got it. Judy, do you have one?
No, actually, I hadn't heard that Willingboro. I don't know how I missed that one.
Okay, it's good.
Still trying to get over that one. But I agree, and it's been like it's always been the negative side of Willingboro in the BCT, and I subscribed to that for years and years and years. I just stopped a couple of years ago because I realized how much it was costing me, and then I went to the electronic edition, and it's almost impossible to. It's not a consumer-friendly edition to use, so it's like I've gotten along without knowing about it through them. That I don't even bother because that's what I used to, use it for, is to find out what's going on in Willingboro. But
Gotcha.
yeah, it hasn't been. Oh, let me look at the good stuff that's going on and look up the Burlington County Times for that. It never was that kind of a thing.
Hey Doc, we have a question from Mr. Muhammad that I'd like to bring up in a second, but I just wanted to stay with Ms. Judith just for a second to go back to the other question about, or the other statement I should say, about bringing back our local Willingboro channel. Ms. Judith, do you remember having experiences with the Willingboro channel, the news channel?
Channel 28, Miss Judy.
No, I can't say I watched that a lot either.
Is there anyone on the panel who has an experience with Channel 28 that could give some insight into what was good about it and what's needed to bring it back?
Well, I can never speak. If you can't, go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, the only thing I remember, unfortunately, we'll say the lively school board meetings. I'm just going to
yeah, well, I wasn't trying to go there. I was trying to not go there. Yeah. No,
but I was young when that was happening. I was a kid, so that's what I know it for. But I think it's an excellent idea to be able to disseminate with news.
And so just to get to, I want to go to Adrian and Natalie get up on this question. As young people, if they were to resurrect a media channel for Willingboro specifically, what ways would it need to look, and what would it need to look like? What would it need to do for your generations to want to use it and share it?
I would say that, well, I don't know. Where's Natalie? Natalie's here with us. What's your thought first?
Yeah, let's hear from Natalie for a second, and then Adrian.
So I feel like, I guess, because like the young people, they probably won't be interested. Like it needs to like something that like pops, Like maybe something like, let me think. Because I mean, most youth have like different opinions. Like I might like something that like other people might not like. So like,
Well, let me ask you this question: would the channel need to be rather than just what we call a terrestrial channel broadcasting across TV? Would that same information need to be reformatted for YouTube and Instagram stories and things like that for it to be relevant and shareable for your community?
I feel like it should, because I don't know a lot of people that watch TV. I mean, like I do, but like maybe others might not have TV, so like they're usually on their phones anyways. So like if they had like YouTube or Instagram stories, I feel like that would get more of their attention and like more views and stuff.
I see. Adrian?
Yeah, I'm thinking about the attention span of our generation as well. It's not as long as it used to be, if I could just be very honest. We see things and either it's entertaining or it's not. And if it's not, then we just go and keep scrolling. We're going to keep looking. We're going to keep searching until we find something. And if there were to be a channel that was dedicated to, the things that we want to get into, I think it should honestly highlight some of the youth in our community because they're really doing well right now. I feel like a lot of people support businesses within Willingboro if they know that they're doing well. Like there's so many food businesses, dancers, singers, actors, and so many things that are going on in our community. Why not record our young people and give us, the insight to what we're actually doing? Like everything is going to be virtual anyway. So why not just record record these dance sessions or have, so young students can't even go out and go to band camp anymore or do cheerleading or have the physical activities that we used to have with the high schools and in school in general. So why not put together organizations or some type of, performing like Faith in Action and record sessions, have workshops workshops where people can learn how to play the trumpet, or learn dance choreography, or, you know, practice improv in their living rooms. Give them something at home to do, because that's all we can do with, you know, our youth. We don't have anything else to do. We can't go outside. We can't party. Can't
More or less
go to school.
lifestyle.
Hmm.
More or less like lifestyle of what's going on. You want, because lifestyle, it just expands to so many different areas. So
Yes.
yeah, I like that idea. I love that idea, actually.
Yeah.
You know, Miss Marilyn, while you're speaking, I just have a quick question for you. But also to that point, you know, I think one of the things that the news media gets wrong in general is how we deem what's newsworthy, right? I mean, most times, and I think it was Mr. McCullum who said this, most times it's people who don't even live in these neighborhoods deeming what's newsworthy, right? And, you know, I mean, that's part of the reason for this type of conversation is, you know, I don't feel like we can continue to do that. The people who live in a community or in a particular place should be the ones who determine what's newsworthy, and that relationship should be informing how journalists think about it, rather than journalists from the outside saying this is not newsworthy, this is. Because sometimes there are lifestyle stories that have nothing to do with crime, nothing to do with flooding, nothing to do with deficit-based social issues, but they are newsworthy because the community wants to know about it, right? So I think that's a piece of advice that the entire industry could take. Miss Marilyn, just a quick question on, you know, piggybacking what Adrian said about, and Natalie said about being on their phones. How has the township experimented with text message updates, text message news alerts? Is that something you've done? If so, what kind of success have you had with it? And if not, what's the challenge to implementing?
Actually, we did do a test run on that. About, I say, a year ago. We did it was text messaging, getting things out to individuals. The task that we had at the time was, you know, restraints on, you know, budgeting, you know, so testing, you know, so it was all about the budget, you know, to actually implement that, get that going and so forth. But it was a great test run, and I would love to actually implement that, because that's very important, especially for Adrian and Natalie's age group. I mean, not even them, I mean, just us, ourselves, you know, it's really great. So it was a success for the test run that we did. But like I said, the budgeting, that was a constraint for us right there.
Fair enough. Dr. Dean?
Yes. So if we go back to Mrs. Bell, Mohammed has a question. He says, about accurate news, what is the Township Communication Department doing to fix those issues?
Well, actually, when he says the accurate news, does that mean, I mean, inaccurate news, is that coming from the Burlington County Times that they're speaking of, or accurate, not accurate news that they're hearing within the township from people of the municipalities? I just need to know where.
Oh, let me rephrase it if it's okay. And
Okay.
I think he's actually talking. The rephrase is, what is the township doing about getting accurate news out?
Well, most of the accurate news that we get, is accurate, you know, as far as what's going on in the municipality. And that's what the only news that we can actually really put out on what's going on and what's happening in the municipality. Like Terry and Will may have a different take on it because they're not within the municipality. So we can only deal with what's really like going on in the municipality of the township.
Okay, so going out into the community and finding out what's happening there, the communications department would not cover that. You would cover things that happen within the township department, so to speak, correct?
Yes, I mean, to a degree. If we happen to actually have a platform as a publication, you know, and we have to actually get out there and do interviews and cover stories, that's a different, because now we have a different outlet to do that. Right now, we're really internal, you know, and we're not out there to be able to actually get those stories because we really don't have a platform for it.
Okay. Well, Kimberly, It makes sense. Yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Kimberly actually speaks further into that. She said one way that we could reach the young audience, if you will, is to hire or enlist the help of the youth to run various social media pages, because they would know how to better reach their peers and highlight positive things in people in Willingboro. Is that something that communications would consider?
Absolutely, absolutely. We are actually working with it's a committee, a communication committee, and we had those discussions already in regards to having the youth, handle certain platforms of social media, Instagram, TikTok, and so forth. Absolutely.
And now,
yeah, I'm sorry.
Sorry, Will.
Yeah, real quick, because full disclosure, I'm actually on that communications committee.
Yes.
Also, one thing that I hope residents understand, and it's kind of happening already, and I see Kimberly, her questions, but she has a platform. She has something with Kimberly and Dawu, and they talk about things that are in Willingboro. There's a Better Willingboro podcast, and they talk about all things Willingboro. So actually, residents are taking their own agency, and I encourage residents to take it upon themselves to put their own narrative, such as Terry McCullum with BoroTV, presenting Willingboro and fashioning the narrative, being accurate, but having those human stories and just having a deeper story, and actually being at the event. I do appreciate Mr. McCullum, Terry, coming to different events and filming, because without him recording it, it would be lost. It would just be like people talking about, hey, we had a community cleanup, or hey, there was a voter registration drive, with those type of things. But what I do want residents to understand, that you can do it. I do want the Willingboro Township to partner and to enlist the young people, but young people can do it too. They can have their own channel. They can have their own with a large following. Part of it is just being consistent and, crafting their message.
So it sounds like we need a reporter for Willingboro to report back on the various things happening in Willingboro. And that one person might connect with all of the entities, if you will, and the demographic to bring news to a central station. Because if somebody moves in, what do we say? Look up on Facebook and follow Kimberly, follow Dawu. What do we do? Like, what's the central location where people can go and find news for Willingboro? Is that not important? Or you think people will find what it is they want to find? Like, is that, am I way off here?
I agree with you completely, Dr. Dean. That was one of the things that I've been talking about for quite some time now, is the fact that Willingboro has so many facets where information is coming at you from every direction, especially on social media with the many different pages that put out different things that's going on in our township, in our community, and they have different followers. So everyone gets their information from a different outlet. Even though it may all be on social media, it's a different outlet where they actually see it. However, I am a fan of having a centralized location where everyone can look to. Will mentioned something, he mentioned consistency. The thing about those various outlets is that they are not always consistent within themselves as far as sharing information. So you can't really rely on just that one, because you'll miss something. Everyone's not just sharing the same thing, but in some cases, different outlets are sharing different pieces of information or different types of information. So if we did have a centralized location, it would help to do as you said. If someone was new to the community and they wanted to know where they could go to get their news, we could have one place that we could say, hey, log on to this, log on to that, and you got what you need. It would just make everything so much easier. And the most important thing, I feel like it would show more unity in our community, because I feel like I've always felt as though the different outlets on social media is a show of disunity. And I almost didn't go forward with BoroTV because I felt like I would have been perpetuating that disunity. However, the reason I decided to go forward with BoroTV is because there was something that I felt was missing that no one else was covering. And so I went with that because I knew that this information that I was able to share with BoroTV needed to get out to the community.
Doc, if I can, just to follow up with Mr. McCullum and Mr. Weston on the topic of fact checking and accurate news. Just a quick question. I'm curious if you can share your process and how you go about fact checking and making sure the news you share is accurate. Is there a particular process you follow? Do you double check your sources? You talk to people multiple times? How do you guys go about that?
Well, I just try to be at the event or whatever it is. I can't say that there's a strong process, but I'll say this: there's not one thing that I appreciate about BroTV is not about editorializing. So it just presents what it is, and I just want to add this nuance to what Terry was saying. BroTV is a page, so it's basically news. So it's the council meeting. And last time it was this, but it's just kind of presented with little editorial. And just what it is what it is. We don't add anything, or no one adds any type of story to it. What I will say, with the other outlets that are online, especially the pages, Facebook pages, there may be a level of editorial there, or a story, or behind the scenes, or what it is, or a breakdown. So there's not really. I look at it as we don't put anything on there that didn't happen, in a sense. And without adding anything extra from BoroTV.
I appreciate that. Doc?
All right, so what is the best story that's not being told? And I just read something that Kimberly said, BoroTV is the best. For those who work weird hours and aren't able to attend meetings and events. So what are some of the best stories that are not being told?
BroTV, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I just think some of the nuggets that we have in Willingboro, there are so many talented people in Willingboro, people who have, made it, really big, and a lot of people don't know about that, even when I first moved down to Willingboro, I used to always listen to the Delphonics. I love the Delphonics. And then come to find out, they're living in the same park that I live in one of the members, there's just many different little facets of Willingboro that needs to be known, especially the history, of Willingboro. There's just a lot about Willingboro. And I'm proud to actually be working in Willingboro, and I'm a proud resident of Willingboro as well. We have a wonderful community here, and I think that we just need to put a new spin on Willingboro and let people know about all of the little wonderful things here. But we definitely have a lot of talented people in Willingboro.
I agree. Willingboro has a lot of what I call hidden gems. One of the things about Willingboro that I noticed is that Willingboro is a veteran community. There are a lot of people, I believe that everyone has a story to tell. And there are a lot of veterans here who have seen a lot of things and done a lot of things. Willingboro has people, I remember growing up and going to school, and we would, learn in the history books about people like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X. There are people in Willingboro right now who knew them personally, who marched with them. And it would just be great to actually hear from people like that and hear from their perspective, people who were actually at a lot of the rallies and a lot of the marches that took place in the 60s, instead of just reading it in the history books from the writer's perspective. Willingboro is full of these gems. You also have a lot of people who maybe could be doing a fundraiser for something local here in Willingboro, dealing with the youth or what have you. And I feel like the news has been failing in allowing things of that nature to be put in a forefront where people can celebrate their community and actually assist. I'm very big on not just taking in information, but then asking myself, once I receive that information, what can I do with this? Just assisting with efforts that are going on around us. Natalie said something earlier that kind of stuck to me. She was talking about the attention span and how when the younger generation would come across a piece of news or anything for that matter, if it's not interesting, if it's not something that's going to attract them immediately almost, then they're going to discard it. I feel like the news in general has taken this turn over the decades where it's all about entertainment, not so much the information, but more so the entertainment. And I feel like we have an opportunity to change that.
All right. Thank you. Adrian.
Yes.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, no, please.
I was going to ask Adrian, what's the best story not being told in Willingboro?
I have most of all the entertainment stories. I really agree with Miss Bell to the point where we have a lot of gems in Willingboro. And that's the biggest untold story right now. I believe that there's just so much negative going on in the world right now that, our generation we just don't want to be not even reminded of it, but we know that we have to deal with it. And we just need a segue after dealing with, just every other news story that reminds us about, what our generation has to go through right now. So most of it is just the positive, every small business that started, a new idea, just our youth getting together in a positive light. Mostly is a lot of creativity. There's open mic nights. People are like literally it's all revolving around art. Like we cannot escape it right now. That's just what everyone is doing to release. So I feel like that would be the biggest untold story right now is just everything that so many Willingboro young people are setting up from Borough Take Back. Like those were young people setting up protests out on the street to fight for a cause that, may not have been covered in the best ways. Like these were things that were just brushed over kind of, sort of. And again, with that news, that wasn't put out to our community in the best way either. Like there could have been a bigger turnout. There was supposed to be a week of just, young people getting up to fight for a cause, not even fight for a cause, but stand up for a cause. And that week turned into nothing, driving down to Delran or going to Cinnaminton or just our Edgewater, it died off. So one of the things that would really help right now to get out in the Willingboro community are the young creatives that are really going hard with everything that they're just trying to do.
Okay.
Let me ask really quick, Doctor, if I can, what about the food in Willingboro? Is the food in Willingboro worth writing about?
Food?
Food, yeah. I mean, I tell you one thing I've heard coming from Philly. I tell you this, coming from Philly, I've heard a lot about. I think it's Catano's cheese sticks, and I've been like, oh my god, I have to get up there just to eat one because in Philly we got Max's, D'Alessandro's, Gooey Louie's. We don't eat Bean Pats and Geno's here. That's just for the tourists. But I've been told that there are people who leave Philly that has all of these cheesesteak spots just to go to Willingboro to get a Catano's steaks. And I'm wondering if there's any other food you think that's worth the travel.
I would also say Taste of Soul. They had a location in Willingboro, but they just recently moved to Burlington. Taste of Soul is really, really good. And I believe that they're Willingboro natives as well. I know going to BCIT, a lot of my friends were also in culinary. So they have started their own food businesses and things like that. But most of the time, being a Willingboro native, we travel out of Willingboro for food, if you really want me to be honest. We do support each other. We do have our, grandma's cookies. She also went to Willingboro High. There are just small businesses that need the help, though. I'm pretty sure they would have a lot more drive if people knew that they were flourishing and doing so good. So, yeah. Food?
Well, I'm just going, just for me, there is a Potasio restaurant and Country Club Plaza. I mess with them. That's where I get my spinach and jollof rice. There's Jilly's there also, and they're still, they're still open. And that's, I realize the importance of just trying to support our local businesses. So that's just me trying to do my thing in that area.
Sharon says there's a lot of chefs or bakers that seem like startup companies or startup businesses. So, overhead and looking for places, but there are definitely a lot of caterers in Willingboro. And Muhammad says that some of the wonderful community activities at JFK are not reported and that the township needs to engage with religious organizations. Because there's a lot going on within the religious organizations as well regarding news, and the people that are within those organizations also are in the know, if you will. And then Kimberly says, why isn't this panel discussion being broadcast on Facebook? So Kimberly, we're going to make sure that for the next one, if that's all right with WHYY, perhaps we can go live. Chris,
absolutely.
All right, good. Chris, you want to wrap up with a final question?
Well, is there anything, I just want to make sure if there's anything anybody wanted to say that we haven't had a chance to ask. Ms. Judith?
I don't know whether it was Terry or Will, whoever brought up the issue of a centralized place. Because, I mean, I'm hearing, every time I'm on this, I hear more and more about more and more things. And it sounds like there's a gazillion things going on there. but there's not one person, area, whatever, pulling it all together like as a sieve and then putting it all out, you know, pulling in Adrian, pulling in and it needs that, which would require, I think, and either these two gentlemen are very dynamic. You need somebody dynamic and out there and beating the bushes and encouraging people to come out. I think people hesitate. You know, everybody's doing their own thing, but they don't go out there and push it. I don't know.
Exactly. I agree with Ms. Evans on that. I think that, you know, individuals have to step out of their comfort zone, you know, and for me to actually help in my department, I had to actually go out. And I went out to Terry McCullough. You know, we should be able to step out to the other news media organizations that are out there and try to come together and build on that for the one purpose is our community. And like Terry was just speaking about, you know, we have people in the community who have marched with Dr. Martin Luther King and so forth. He and I are getting ready to work on a project together for this one individual to actually, you know, let people know what we have in our community, who we have in our community, and what this person has done in his life. And he's writing a book in regards to that. So I think we have to sometimes step out of our comfort zone and, you know, hey, Adrian, when you're down back in Willingboro from school, let's, you know, try to get together and how we can, you know, work with your age group population and get things out. I think that having a central place, of course, me and Terry spoke about that as well too, in regards to information going out. And sometimes, you know, you have one platform is saying one thing, another platform is saying another thing. You don't know which way to go sometimes, you know? And so basically what the communication department does, we try to go with the information that we do know that is factual coming out of the municipalities, because there's just so many platforms. So I just think coming out of our comfort zone and coming to one another and say, hey, you know, what can we do to make this community better and get the news out there?
Thank you. Is there anyone else that wants to offer any final remarks? Judith, you see you're going to say something?
No, I was just going to ask Marilyn, are you located in the Kennedy Center?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, because I see that as, that could really be expanded and built up. That needs
Absolutely.
to be the hub and
Absolutely.
much more dynamic.
Absolutely. Actually, we also we want to implement a media room there, you know, with podcasts, you know, interview different individuals. You know, COVID, you know, has come and, you know, is under some unprecedented times right now. But
right.
All of those ideas are there, what we would like to do, you know, so it's a great spot.
And I would say one more thing too, like just to piggyback off, like I also thought about like a mentoring idea, like this would be perfect for Miss Amy and Miss Bell, like with Faith in Action and just allowing like a mentorship program throughout Willingboro. I realized coming home from college after I graduated, I'm like, oh my God, these babies, like I know some of them, but I don't, and I'm still a baby and I don't know. And I started panicking a little bit. What would go really nice is like a serious mentorship type of community where we could reach out to the Natalies, we could reach out to younger kids who, you know, want to go to college or don't know, you know, what they want to do in this time. And like, let's get together and build more of like a family type of community so that when we do communicate, it is accurate news and we actually care for getting it out to our younger people, like having them show concern. Because the more we show concern is the more our age group would say, oh, well, Natalie's checking into this. Maybe I should too. Well, what's the census? Like, you know, that would just educate younger audiences about maturing in a more smoother, you know, fashion instead of just being thrown out into the adult world. Like, hey, pay attention to this. It's not entertainment all the time. You know, you can't laugh, just focus. This is important, and shows them how it affects them in the long run too. Because that age demographic, I don't feel like we got it so easily. It's like in Willingboro, it moves a little bit slower than it would in North Jersey or Central Jersey. So by the time we're out to college, it's like, what's going on? Here's what's going on in your community.
I agree with Natalie. That's what I'm sorry. Is that Adrian talking?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
that was
I
Adrian.
agree with you. This is when you said family. That's a key word because that's what I see when I see and when I do things in Willingboro. I feel as though anyone that I engage with in this community is family, and it goes back to being the village that I believe that there's a spirit here in Willingboro. It's like a spirit of village, and we need to bring back the village. That's very important. So.
Yeah. Oh, and just I guess I could have some final remarks with I think that there are some wonderful, gifted people in Willingboro, and oftentimes we don't know about it. We have no idea. Willingboro is rich in history, and things are and what I guess the story that I'm most that I feel like that really should be told is that things are happening. There are groups doing things. There are different people who are doing things. It's just not known by maybe everybody. But just like I'm learning about the things that Adrian's doing, I had no idea. I'm involved in, I guess, township things, but or learning about the township and what events in my demographic. But things are happening, and it feels like there's an energy this year with people starting things and saying things and just trying to spread information. Also, even the township, there's the virtual citizens, Willingboro Police Department forum, virtual citizens forum with the Willingboro Police Department, and they're going to be talking about building trust and legitimacy in the community. That sounds like a very interesting thing that residents will want to know, but it's just making sure that residents know about it and become a part of that, and that's October 21st. But we have more, there's more things like that the township is doing, and I know the township wants more people engaged.
Absolutely so. Yes.
Anybody else want to offer any last remarks? Final commentary?
I just want to say one thing. I just want to say that, I feel like there should be more good news because, I don't know, I've looked online about Willingboro news stuff, and the only thing that pops up is oh, shooting or whatever. I feel like there should be more good news. I have some friends that actually have businesses. One of them, she has a lip gloss business. I think it's called Sweet Bay Cosmetics or something like that. And so I feel like they should have a chance, to get get their business going and stuff, and other small businesses in Willingboro too. Yeah, that's it.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Is there also a central page where people could input feedback and comments and questions about what they would like from Willingboro as well? Do we have
Actually, we do, Adrian. On the Willingboro website, in the communications department, there are submissions, there's ideas. Absolutely. You can go there and you can find that information. We have that there.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I want to thank all of you guys for participating, and truly, truly informative for us, for me, and for WHYY. It's important for us as a media organization serving South Jersey to know who the people who move the township forward, who move the neighborhoods forward. During this event, I went and liked all of BoroTV's channels, and I hope that you guys will reach out to me because I'd like to discuss a contract partnership, how we can get you guys working with us to produce that good news and to produce more stories to help out with those resources. For Adrian, I'd like you to keep me informed with your show. When you do your What's Up Wednesdays, I'd like to see that. I'd like to see where we can be a part. WHYY is one of those organizations that we don't have many of the same budget constraints that others do, where our doors open, where we're actually interested in partnering, and the bar for partnership isn't as high as it used to be. Let me just say it that way. And so you don't have to be perfect. You just have to be productive. You have to be present, and you have to be ready and willing to engage. And these types of conversations are not just important for the civic value of Willingboro, they're really important for us as an organization to get to know the township better, so that when we do come in there, when we do have our reporters come in, or when we do want to find out what's going on, we aren't doing it from 6 degrees of separation, but that we can pick up the phone and we can call Dr. Dean, and we can call Mr. Weston, we can call Ms. Evans, we can call Natalie, and we have those relationships on the ground, because that's what's really missing in the news industry, is real relationships. So much of it is transactional. I only call you when I need a quote. I only call you when I need to know about this event, and then you never hear from us again. And we are actively trying to remove that culture and usher in something new. I'd like to say that we're trying to put the public back in public media, and that's my job, and I'm committed to doing it. And so it's truly appreciated that you took your time out today to participate in this conversation. So thank you. And Dr. Dean, with that, I turn it back to you.
Well, we just want to thank everyone for coming. And for those that will be listening to the conversation later on when it's aired, if you have any questions or comments, is it safe that you can, Chris's email is there, cnorris@whyy.org. And you can also reach out to the Willingboro Communications Department. And Marilyn, what's your email address?
mbell@willingboro